In this episode, we are going to look at the two generals you can see. One of them was the president of Uganda, the shortest serving president in Uganda's history. It is him that Yoweri Kaguta Museveni took over from in 1986 to become the longest serving president of Uganda ever. And I can assure you that Yoweri Museveni is going to be the longest serving president forever. He is the longest serving president ever, but he is going to be the longest serving president forever. I do not see a situation where in the future someone can rule for as many years as Museveni is doing. I think forever it will never happen. He took over from Tito Okelo Lutwa. Tito Okelo Lutwa was a military major general, and you can see him being sworn in as the president of Uganda. He took over as the president of Uganda in July 1985. That picture was taken in July 1985 when he took over as the president for a few months, only for Kaguta Museveni to take over in early 1986. He is the politest president Uganda has ever had, and he was a good old gentleman. But he is not the one who overthrew the previous president. The previous president was Milton Apollo Obote. Milton Apollo Obote was the president the second term. You know, Milton Apollo Obote was the second president, but later he was brought back and became the sixth president. I think he's the sixth because the first was Benedict Kiwanuka. The second was Milton Obote. The third president after Obote was Idi Amin Dada. The fourth was Yusuf Lule. The fifth was Geoffrey Binaisa. Then the sixth was not one person. The sixth was not the one person. Paul Mwanga was the prime minister, but he placed a three-man committee which he called the presidency. Very few people know the names of those three presidency. In any place, they used to put on suits and tie, and they would go to a meeting of which Paul Mwanga, as the prime minister, would address the meeting. But theirs was just what do you call it? Putting on signature. Where the president is supposed to put on a signature, the three would put it there. Those were stooges for Paul Mwanga. So I will repeat myself. The first president who was a ceremonial president was Kabaka Benedict Mutesa. He was overthrown by his prime minister, who was called Apollo Milton Obote. Apollo Milton Obote overthrew Kabaka through the assistance of the army commander Idi Amin Dada. So Idi Amin Dada wanted to grab, when you assist the president to get something, you can grab a lot of things. That is why you find that Treetop Hotel in Nyeri imechukuliwa na Matiala. So Amin assisted him to be the president, the second president, and Amin wanted to grab the palace, the Kabaka's palace, but then Milton Obote was clever. He gave it to the army. Milton Obote was the second, Idi Amin was the third, the fourth was Yusuf Lule, Professor Yusuf Lule, former vice chancellor of Makerere University. The fifth one was a former attorney general, Binaisa. I said first is Kabaka, the second is Obote, the third is Amin, the fourth is Professor Yusuf Lule, the fifth is the former attorney general, Godfrey Binaisa. Godfrey Binaisa, later on, during Yusuf Lule's time, he was the Speaker of the National Assembly. He just called the National Assembly and they voted a vote of no confidence in the president. And he acted as the president and took over as the president. That is the fifth. The sixth, after Binaisa, the fifth were three people I said, and the prime minister was Paul Mwanga. Paul Mwanga called for an election to make the sixth president. Now the sixth president is the second president, that is Apollo Milton Obote. When the elections were held, Apollo Milton Obote was declared the winner, and Museveni, who was not even the second, went to the bush to fight. So that is the sixth. And then when Museveni was fighting Obote, it became obvious that Museveni was about to take over. So the military, through Brigadier Okelo, the fellow you see with 3 stars on his shoulder, on the left of your screen, is the person who decided to overthrow the government. Actually, his boss, Okelo, there were two bosses, Okelo, the brigadier, and Okelo, the major general. So brigadier is the one who overthrew the government, and I'm sure because of the age and whatever, Okelo, the major general, was not even aware that the military was planning to overthrow, and he was just installed. So for 6 months he was the president, but still Museveni was at the Lowero Triangle. So when Museveni was at the Lowero Triangle, they were called, that was December 1985, they were called to Nairobi by Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi to form a united government. And they agreed. They agreed that they were to form a coalition, of which Tito Okelo Lutua was to be the president and the chairman of the Council of Ministers. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was to be the vice president and the vice chairman of the Council of Ministers. These things, where each party is supposed to be told, okay, the president will now produce 60% of the cabinet and the vice president will produce the 40% share of the cabinet. That is what they agreed. And when they agreed, they went back. Kaguta went back to the forest, Lowero Triangle, and Tito Okelo Lutua went back to Kampala. So Tito Okelo Lutua complained that Museveni had not come to Kampala to be installed as the vice president and vice chairman of the Council of Ministers. But Museveni retorted from the forest. He said, I can deputize you from any place in Uganda. So long as I'm in Uganda, I'm the second in command. A few days later, in January, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni overran Kampala and became the president. And when he was being sworn in, the first thing he said is that the problem in Africa is that people want to be president. And when they are president, they stay there forever. Tafakari ya babu.